The moment of contact, the culmination of 2 weeks of tense waiting, arrived precisely at 2 minutes past 3 o'clock in the morning on the 21st of August, 1942. The location was a crucial choke point on the island of Guadalcanal, the west bank of the Tenaru River. This winding, shallow waterway served as the primary eastern defensive barrier for the American perimeter, guarding the essential prize, Henderson Field. Marine Private Al Schmid, barely 21 years old, felt the immense weight of the moment pressing down on him. A recent recruit, having enlisted 2 days after the Pearl Harbor attack, his pre-war identity was defined by his precise trade as an apprentice steel burner from the city of Philadelphia. He was 2 weeks into his deployment on this humid, pestilential island, and still carried 0 confirmed combat experience. His assignment was essential, but secondary, serving as the water-cooling technician and assistant gunner for the Browning Model 1917A, one heavy machine gun. Schmid was integrated into the 11th Machine Gun Squad, Company H, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marine Regiment. The heart of the defensive position lay with his 2 comrades, Corporal Leroy Diamond, the steady, focused ammunition handler, and Private First Class Johnny Rivers, the experienced primary gunner who had spent 6 months mastering the heavy tripod-mounted weapon. Their collective fate hinged on this gun, chambered for the powerful 30 caliber M2 ball round, which offered a muzzle velocity exceeding 2,700 feet per second. Their shallow fighting pit, reinforced with heavy coconut logs and sandbags, overlooked a critical stretch of the river. 50 yards of open water separated them from the dense jungle foliage on the opposite bank, the designated killing zone where the enemy would be most vulnerable. The strategic imperative driving this battle was Henderson Field. Captured from the Japanese on the 7th of August, the airfield immediately gave the American forces their first sustainable offensive platform in the vast Pacific theater. This logistical anchor became the target of relentless Japanese effort. The Marines knew their position was precarious. Logistical support had become tenuous following the devastating Battle of Savo Island on the 9th of August, which resulted in the sinking of 4 Allied cruisers. This naval disaster forced the United States Navy to withdraw major support vessels, leaving the Marines isolated, heavily dependent on irregular resupply, and desperately rationing critical medical supplies needed to combat the rampant malaria and dysentery. 2 days prior to the attack, reconnaissance confirmed the landing of the Japanese Ichiki detachment at Taivu Point, 22 miles to the east. The commanding officer, Colonel Kiyonao Ichiki, was a hardened veteran of the campaigns in China and Manchuria. Steeped in the rigid, material-disregarding doctrine of the Imperial Japanese Army, Ichiki profoundly underestimated the Marines. He expected the overwhelming fighting spirit, Yamato Damashi, of his approximately 800 elite soldiers to carry the day, believing he could sweep through the American defenses and recapture the airfield within 48 hours. Rejecting caution, Ichiki ordered an immediate massed frontal assault across the Tenaru sandbar, aiming to achieve a breakthrough before the debilitating light of dawn. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the silence was shattered by the rise of green flares, signaling the beginning of the attack. Schmid, Diamond, and Rivers heard the immediate, terrifying sound of hundreds of Japanese voices shouting and weapons clattering across the water. The first wave, comprising perhaps 50 men abreast, advanced in a tight, dense formation. Rivers, demonstrating extreme tactical discipline, withheld fire, allowing the Japanese to commit fully to the crossing. Only when the lead elements reached the middle of the river, fully exposed, did he engage. The Browning machine gun erupted at its calculated cyclic rate of 450 rounds per minute. Rivers methodically swept the fire, guided by the bright arc of the tracer rounds every 5th projectile, which illuminated the horrific spectacle of the shallow water turning red. The Japanese immediately concentrated their return fire on the machine gun's visible muzzle flash. Diamond functioned with robotic precision, feeding the heavy, fabric-belted, 300-round ammunition supply. Schmid's duty became a race against thermodynamics. He monitored the water jacket, which rapidly boiled and steamed as the heat built up, pushing the metal toward failure. He sacrificed his precious finite supply of drinking water from his canteens, pouring it into the cooling system to prevent the barrel from seizing. The Japanese assault was relentless, fueled by fanatical determination. Schmid counted 8 distinct waves in the first half hour. The strain on the system was immense. The crisis escalated severely when a Japanese grenade explosion silenced the adjacent machine gun position 150 yards downstream. Rivers's crew was now completely isolated, shouldering the entire defensive load for the sector. The machine gun's barrel began to glow an ominous red. Schmid frantically poured in more water, only to see it vaporize instantly. The desperate situation was momentarily compounded by a Japanese flanking attempt on their right, which Schmid quickly suppressed using 3 rapid, loud shots from his personal M1 Garand rifle, a powerful 30-caliber semi-automatic weapon. Less than 1 hour into the assault, the Browning sustained critical damage. A high-velocity Japanese round struck the metal water jacket, punching a hole clean through the casing. All coolant escaped, rendering the system useless. Moments later, a bullet struck Corporal Diamond in the left arm, inflicting a severe wound that disabled his ability to feed the heavy ammunition belts. The desperate climax of the engagement arrived at 41 minutes past 3 o'clock in the morning. A concentrated volley of 12 bullets struck Private First Class Johnny Rivers in the face and neck, killing him instantly. His finger locked in a final, lethal spasm on the butterfly trigger, cycling 200 rounds through the already white-hot barrel before his hand finally released. Al Schmid did not flinch. He physically shoved Rivers' body aside and slid into the primary gunner's position. The transition was immediate and born of pure instinct. He resumed firing the disintegrating weapon. Diamond, though gravely wounded and fading from blood loss, became the essential logistics man. Using his uninjured arm, he continued to feed the heavy ammunition belts, tapping Schmid's shoulder to signal reloads. They established a new, painful rhythm of fire and reload the blind willingness of one man to fight, coupled with the desperate loyalty of the other to keep the weapon operating. Schmid fired continuously. The barrel was now glowing bright orange, visible even in the pre-dawn darkness. He was a steel burner, fighting heat with heat. He knew the gun was past the point of catastrophic failure. The metal was warping, and stress fractures were forming. Yet, he continued to fire into the Japanese concentrations. The grenade blast that changed everything occurred at 33 minutes past 4 o'clock in the morning. A Japanese soldier, crawling through the piles of dead bodies, threw a Type 97 hand grenade which bounced into the pit and detonated next to Schmid's right knee. The blast resulted in an immediate, blinding white light, followed by absolute, permanent darkness. Shrapnel had vaporized his left eye and inflicted massive trauma to his right. Blinded and severely wounded, Schmid did not stop. Diamond, barely conscious, became his eyes, communicating critical targeting information in minimal, urgent fragments. Straight ahead, adjust left. 5 degrees. Schmid oriented the scorching hot machine gun based entirely on this auditory feedback and instinct, firing controlled bursts toward the sounds of Japanese movement. He cleared multiple jams from the disintegrating weapon by touch alone, his hands searing on the superheated metal. The Japanese assault finally weakened as dawn approached at 38 minutes past 5 o'clock in the morning. Their casualties were massive, estimated to be over 300 men from this sector alone. At 15 minutes past 6 o'clock in the morning, the Japanese pulled back completely, leaving the Tenaru sandbar choked with their dead. Colonel Ichiki, his entire doctrine shattered by marine firepower, would soon commit the ritual act of seppuku. Schmid finally ceased firing when the sounds of battle faded entirely. A Navy corpsman soon arrived, confirming Rivers' death and stabilizing the severely wounded Diamond. Schmid, wounded and blind, was tagged for immediate medical evacuation due to the catastrophic nature of his ocular trauma. Evacuated via transport aircraft to a hospital ship on the 24th of August, doctors performed emergency procedures. The prognosis was severe. His left eye was destroyed and beyond repair, and his right eye had severe, potentially irreversible damage. In early September, Schmid was transferred to the San Diego Naval Hospital. Here, the long, excruciating process of surgical recovery and adaptation began. He would undergo multiple operations, reconstructive work, shrapnel removal, and skin grafts, all while existing in a world of total, unremitting darkness. He faced the reality that his military career was over, and his future hinged on the grim, uncertain promise of potential recovery. His survival had saved the perimeter, but the cost was absolute.